I'm Becky Murray, I'm the Operations Director, so I'm in control of all the day-to-day running of everything that the Trust does. So it was founded in 2004. We came into this building slightly later with some assistance from Lord Joycey, and this is our base that we own. Food Bank started in 2014, and that started by a piece of work that was a previous chair who worked for Sure Start. So Sure Start, the local nursery provision, used to have a handful of bags of food for parents that they identified were in need. They recognised that it was starting to grow at the same time that we recognised through Here For You that people were struggling. They didn't have either the manpower or the physical capacity to house anything bigger than a cupboard. So between the two of us, we organised for it to move here, and it's just, unfortunately, in terms of socially grown exponentially. So it's now a really considerable operation. Initially, we used to distribute through organisations like the CAB and other volunteer sector groups. That became logistically quite difficult, so everything is now managed from here, so it's all kept in one place. So the food bank is managed by Sarah. She manages a group of 9 volunteers who support us through the food bank. The volunteers do the things like collecting from the supermarket drop-off points, sorting the food by type and date, and packing parcels. We have a packing list so that we try and keep the food parcels as balanced a parcel as we can. In terms of when it's open, for drop-off it's open 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. In terms of accessing it for food, we take inquiries every weekday, but we have people collect by appointment, generally on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And it didn't used to be like that. There is now a very specific reason for that, and that's because the volume of collections is high. We do collection by appointment, so people aren't bumping into each other, and it doesn't cause that difficult moment when people know why other people are here. One of the reasons the food bank works really well from this building is there's loads of other stuff going on. So when someone comes through that front door, nobody else in the building will know why they're here. They could be here for Slimming World, they could be here for, a social group. There's lots of different things, so it's easy to arrive and not be labelled. The food bank for us is not really about the food, and that might sound a bit strange, but the food bank for us is around the opportunity to have the conversation with that person to support them in how they can alleviate the situation they're in. We have welfare benefits checked staff, so we're trained in how to assess whether somebody's receiving all the correct benefits. And we also work with partners, specialist debt organisations and various other partners to broaden out that support. So often coming for the food parcel is just really the first part of helping them to overcome whatever the issue might be. We work closely with housing, we work with the job centre, we work with a whole range of partners, county council, all sorts of different places, to just try and get to the root of the problem and to support that person to sort out what's going on as much as possible to alleviate their use of the food bank. And it's not because we don't want them to come, it's because we don't want them to have the problem. So it's a very much a partnership approach. In terms of accessing the food bank, we very deliberately don't have a prescribed referral process. So many food banks you have to come through a GP or a social worker. We deliberately don't have that because that makes it inaccessible to a lot of people. And actually, currently, what GP has time to see someone to make a referral to a food bank? So people can self-refer, they can refer a family member or a friend or neighbour, or it can come through a social worker, through housing, through a school. So really, for us, it doesn't matter how they get here so long as they do. That's the most important thing. But all the conversations are held in private for obvious reasons. Our staff are trained interviewers. So most of us have worked in other areas before. For example, my background before I came here, I've worked in adult education, but I've also worked in drug and alcohol support. So we're used to having challenging and sensitive conversations. And it's about reading the room. So we might have someone in who very clearly isn't comfortable in opening up on that first meeting. And you have other people who want to tell you absolutely everything all in one go. So it might be that it takes 2 or 3 visits before we start down that journey of the conversation. Is there anything else we can help you with? Can we do a benefits check to check that you are actually getting everything you're entitled to? And it's very much on an individual approach. We don't have a formula because people aren't formulaic. So it is very much led by the individual, but we are trained in how to interview in a sympathetic way. So at Christmas we do additional support over and above the crisis support. Most of those families are identified by children's services, adult services, different professionals, support workers that are working with families. But we also, through the work that we do with families, identify families that we feel at Christmas a bit extra would just make a massive difference. They might not be in crisis support, but sometimes it's actually just quite uplifting for people to know that somebody else has thought of them. And that within of itself makes their Christmas. We're very lucky in as much we also get to administer on behalf of the Maltings pantomime tickets. So they give us a little supply of pantomime tickets to give to children that would never get the opportunity to go otherwise because it's quite expensive. And we have families for whom that's massive, and actually it becomes a Christmas present. So that's really quite a lovely part of the food bank, really. It's quite interesting because they're all game. So, some people have never eaten game before. So that's quite interesting in of itself. But, to have those ready meals that are good quality ingredients, easy to manage, you don't need an oven, you can do it with a microwave, is really significant for us. And what it also means is that if we're short of anything, such as meals in a pouch, we don't have to use the cash donations that we get to buy that, and we can still keep using them to buy the fresh items. So it's great. Coming to a food bank is a really difficult thing, and it's never going to be an easy thing for anybody, because to contact somebody, a stranger, and say, I can't cope and I can't feed my children, is always going to be a horrific thing to be able to have to do. The only things that we can do is what we're doing, is to be as open and friendly and relaxed as possible. You can see, I'm dressed in jumper and jeans. That's really deliberate. It's because we can't be suited and booted. We're not approachable if we're looking like that. We need to be part of the community, and the other things that we do within the community, we hope will encourage people to think of us as being part of the community, approachable, easy to talk to. Often people will have come to us for other things. They'll have come to us for a CV, for example, which is obviously a completely different sort of setup, and they'll have already met the people that they're going to have the conversation with. The conversations are never with volunteers, they are only with trained staff, so that we can guarantee the confidentiality of any conversations that we have. And I think, the Trust has got a really strong reputation within the town for being trustworthy and for being very honest. And without that, people wouldn't visit. Sometimes we actually have people phoning up, and what they'll start of the conversation will be, I was thinking of donating to the food bank. And then as the conversation actually goes on, you realise that isn't why they're phoning at all. They're phoning because they want to find out more. Or they'll phone up and they'll say, my mum or my brother or my friend needs a food bank. How do we go about it? And it's just about understanding that people need to come to you in a way that works for them. In terms of making donations, people can come in any time, or they can go into one of the drop-off points like in Asda or Tesco, Morrison's. They will have drop-off points for food banks. Out with of Christmas, the things we're always short of is long life milk and something to spread on bread, like butter or peanut butter, something you can make a sandwich out of, because we provide the bread. And if you can give a person a sandwich, it's lunch, isn't it? But one of the other things that everybody could do to help us is just to spread the word about how people can access our services, because we know there are people out there who either don't know or don't come for whatever reason. And there will always be a small amount of people who won't come. But if we can break down those barriers, and if people can just watch out for their neighbour, see if they're okay, and if they're not okay, they can come and get some help here. That would be the biggest help.